بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. الحمد لله. الدرس الثالث عشر في بيان ما يكره للصائم. Regarding what is makruh for somebody of fasting to do. I've noticed, alhamdulillah, and you guys might have noticed that the second book that we are going through, what the Shaykh has written himself, it's actually, each chapter is very, very easy to follow. And so I was going through it and I realized there's not much I really have to explain. I'll just mention the main concept, and I'm pretty sure that you guys should, inshallah, find it a lot easier compared to the previous chapters, especially in the previous book, to read, especially those things which are being recurring. And if you reached this lesson, alhamdulillah, do let me know in the comments, how are you finding the lesson so far and how are you finding the books, and are you finding it hard or not? Your feedback will be appreciated on that, because at the moment I'm just recording and uploading, so I've not really heard back from you guys. And that way I can learn. If more information is required, then I know for next time to add more information. So Dars al-Thalith Ashar, I read through it, and I was, I normally highlight as I go through, and the main points that I need to mention and read. I do that, but to be honest, after reading the whole thing, it's quite straightforward. It's quite straightforward, and the main thing that the Shaykh is saying is that you're in a state of fasting, and the whole state of fasting you'll be rewarded for it, but you should also, you should protect that fast of yours. In the beginning, he mentions وَلِهَذَا كَانَ السَّلَفُ الصالح إذا صاموا جلسوا في المساجد وقالوا نحفظ صومنا ولا نغتاب أحدا. And quote that is that the Salaf, they used to sit in the masjid and they used to say that we are protecting and preserving our fasting, and we're not doing ghiba of anyone. So we're just going to stay in the masjid, not talk to anyone, out of fear that we might fall into something haram. So the Shaykh, he just expands on that point, to be honest, and he mentions a hadith فَلَا يَرْفُثْ وَلَا يَجْهَلْ, and so on. And if anybody, he mentions the other hadith, if anybody insults you or something, then you should say inni sa'im, and so on. Basically protecting your fast. So a person should be very wary of that and protect his fast. Know that fasting is not just from eating, drinking, and sexual relations, but it's also from your actions, both in speech and physical actions that you do. So that's what basically that chapter is talking about. Chapter number 14, now the Shaykh starts talking about the mufattirat, or the mufsidat of fasting. And I remember yesterday I did mention that when it comes to the fiqh of fasting, apart from the smaller issues of the definition and ruling and wisdom and so on, the main thing is the conditions, and then the people who are exempt, and then the mufattirat, the nullifiers of fasting. And that's what we're talking about today. So this chapter, the Shaykh only mentions one of the nullifiers, and then in the next chapter he mentions two nullifiers, and in the chapter after that he mentions a few more. So he split up the nullifiers and he's not mentioned it all into one. And he says that nullifiers are of two types. That when it nullifies your fasting, وَيَلْزَمْ مَعَهُ الْقَضَاء, you have to make it up. And there are some where you don't have to make it up. مَا يُفْسِدُ الثَّوَابَ الصَّوْمِ, that which nullifies the reward of fasting, and you don't have to make it up. So at the moment, the Shaykh is just going to talk about the first type. فالمفسدات التي تبطل الصوم وتوجب القضاء أنواع. The first is sexual intercourse. Now, sexual intercourse is when the head of the private part of a man enters a woman. If that is the case, then ghusl is obligatory upon them. We have to also ejaculate from that, then this is what we are talking about comes in. And what is obligatory upon this person is to turn back to Allah, do tawbah. And if you have intercourse, then you have something called kafara al-mughalladha, a very mughalladha, mim, ghain, lam, dha, ta marbuta, which is a very heavy type of kafara expiation. And that is basically, and the Shaykh mentions the hadith, but I'm going to summarize it for you so it's easier, is that you free a slave. Only if you're not able to free a slave, you move to the next, which is to fast for 2 consecutive months, i.e. 60 consecutive days. Meaning if you fast 58, 59th, you're ill and you're not able to complete it, then you have to start all over again. And then only if you're not able, like you feel, not even find it hard, but you're physically is not able, you're ill, you got terminal illness or whatever it may be, then you feed 60 poor people. Then you feed 60 poor people. So this is a kafara which is in order. It's in order. It's not a choice. Okay, now we don't have slaves anymore, so we're only basically left with 2. So if a person does come intercourse in the day of Ramadan while fasting, then what's upon him? He has to, with the fact that he has to do tawbah and turn back to Allah, he has to fast for 60 consecutive days. And the Shaykh, he just goes on to expand on this point. and talk about, talk about intercourse and how it is a desire, and it can be more, it can move your desires, your shahwa, even more than eating and drinking. The second, which is in the next chapter, the second nullifier is inzal al-mani min ghayri jima'. This is ejaculation without intercourse. So if this is done by kissing or by touching or even masturbation, which even though it's not allowed, or even looking and so on, it does break your fast. There's no kafara, but it does break your fast and you have to make it up. And obviously, if you've done it through haram ways, by the masturbation, watching something haram and so on, then that's also a sin, and you do ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for tawbah, but there's no kafara, no expiation. If a person has a bad dream, then that's fine, because that's not in his ability. The next is eating and drinking intentionally. Eating and drinking intentionally. If it's done unintentionally or forgetfulness, then that's fine. It comes in the hadith, فَإِنَّمَا أَطْعَمَهُ اللَّهُ وَسَقَاهُ. That is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has fed this person. And also anything which takes the ruling of eating and drinking, and anything which goes in through the mouth, through the throat. So what I mean by anything which takes the ruling of eating and drinking, the Shaykh, he mentions the example here. Al-ibr al-mughadhiya. Al-ibr is injection. Mughadhiya is from the word ghadha, basically has nutrition and food inside. So there are some people who are ill, and their form of eating is through injection. They don't physically eat food, they take injections. That will break their fast, because that's in the meaning of eating and drinking for them. Okay. And then there's a number of other issues. Now we can talk about, take a branch of this and talk about the contemporary issues and so on. Generally, eye drops and ear drops, they don't break your fast. Nose, however, nasal drops, ulama do say stay away from that, because it can easily go down the throat. So very wary of that. Asthma pump is fine, because water is, the spray that comes, the droplets are so little. It's like after rinsing your mouth and doing wudu. When you rinse your mouth, you don't come out with a dry mouth. There's always a few drops left. So it's similar to that, and something very similar, very unlikely will go down. And even if it does, it's very, very small, something which the Sharia looks over, and it's not really eating and drinking. And that's opinion Ibn Baz and Ibn Uthaymeen. In terms of insulin injections, Ibn Baz permits them. And that's all I can basically remember off the top of my head. I'm going to stop here, inshallah. So that's basically the lesson. Obviously, for you guys, the main thing is reading the Arabic. And inshallah, you do find the second book. The second book, me anyway, I'm finding it a lot easier than the first. Maybe you guys are also. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us beneficial knowledge. Subhanakallah, bihamdika, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.